guys, I'm Alisha.
Hi, I'm Jazzy.
Hey, and I'm Sarah, and we are Girlies That Read.
Look, if punctuality is my biggest problem, then I'm the most perfect person on earth.
Yeah, I still love you. You're pretty good. You're
We're
pretty
going to be
good.
late for her own funeral.
Yeah, obviously.
Okay, welcome to our very first book deep dive discussion, whatever you're going to call it. We are going to be doing lots of these episodes where we pick a book that we've all read. We're going to talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, and give you an overall rating at the very end. These episodes will contain massive spoilers for the whole book, so please be aware of that upon watching. So if you haven't read it, you can still stick around if you don't care about spoilers. If you have read it, join in on the discussion. We'd love to hear what you also think down in the comments below. It's not hidden in the background at all. Can you spot it?
Can you see the book? Where's the book? I feel like
Can you
Dora.
point to it?
Where's Waldo?
You're
Dora.
right. There it is.
My god, this is
No.
so patronizing to our audience.
You need that. You need that.
This was our book club winner for March. It's called Law by Alexandra Bracken.
Law is very... it's Greek Hunger Games in New York City, and it's 7 days of violence that the main character wants no part in, but she's also got 7 years of buried trauma that she can't get over. There's hidden secrets, new alliances, and she's the last of her family line. Yeah, and that's where you start the book.
That's where basic trauma comes from, being an orphan.
Basically.
Can I just say something that wildly surprised me? Lore is actually the short form of her name rather than the meaning of the word lore. Her name is
Laura.
and that's where we get lore from. And that took me about 5 chapters to understand because I kept thinking lore meant like the lore of like Greek mythology lore.
I think it's supposed to be like a pun. Not in the sense of a pun, but like
the double meaning.
Yeah, double meaning. That's
Fun,
better.
because also if someone comes up to me and they're like, my name is Malora. Malora? Yeah. I just call
You're
her
like, oh my gosh, your parents hated you.
Yeah. But also, one thing...
I just call her Mel.
Yeah, one thing I noticed this
Mal,
book
actually,
does...
Mal would be probably more.
True. This book is so quick to, like, nickname all the characters. Like,
my gosh,
like
yes.
her sister's, like, Olympia, and she calls... So, like, intros her sister, then 2 sentences later is calling her Pia.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just met this girl. What is her name? And then
No,
she had another
literally.
sister, and then the...
She had 2 younger sisters and then her parents.
her parents, and then her best friend. Like, everyone was nicknamed so quickly, and they didn't... Spoilers, they didn't matter because they were already dead.
But also, like, if you don't like the name of your characters, pick different names.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what I thought is, like, her sister's name is Olympia, and that's very Greek. So, like, her family's, you know, holding that heritage. No, let me nickname her Pia and get rid of that importance of the name entirely. And
I feel like that was kind of like the thing. All of the names were very
Greek, like,
Greek,
vibes.
Yeah, like Greek fun, lore.
yeah.
Miles?
No, well, he
No,
wasn't
but I mean, like,
involved.
so he was mortal.
Yeah,
like, he's
he
just
was
a normal
the New
generic.
Yorker.
Yeah. Versus, like, but the people actually involved in.
I don't even remember all their
What's it
names.
called again? I can't even remember.
The
event.
Aegon. The Aegon, yeah.
Aegon. Yeah.
A-G-O-N.
The Aussies over here were definitely pronouncing it wrong.
Probably.
Yeah, in advance, we apologise for any mispronunciations because we can't speak. Except
with the
someone who
dialect.
apparently speaks 3 languages.
Comes with the colour. 4 actually. Who's counting?
Is that a colour?
Because even, like,
But you know what I mean,
the
right?
gods, like the people who became the gods, had they weren't Greekish names, but like Tidebringer, that's not like Miles or like Tracy. Like,
That's
it's a
what I was
very
going to point out next.
over the top-ish name.
That we're speaking of names, and the names that were given to the 2.0s of all the gods was horrible. Yeah.
I did not like them. That was so corny.
What was that? Honestly, Poseidon 2.0 would have done just fine.
Or like Poseidon rebirthed, or like I don't know.
I still don't actually understand why the hell Poseidon was involved in this. He was one.
And
He's
where
one of
was
the 3.
Hades?
Yeah.
But then Zeus created the Aegon like challenge, whatever, or tournament. I don't know what to call it. So
My thought process was for like the entire story, and we'll get into it a lot more, but I do think that the entire book was not fleshed out deliberately because we were so not able to connect with the characters, even their appearances, their names, their backstory. Like, it was almost like it was just given for the purpose of building up a character, and I genuinely believe the entire book was written like a screenplay to
definitely.
be picked up by like Lionsgate or HBO or something like that. And I'm pretty sure that is in the works at the moment, but I know Alexandra Bracken has written The Darkest Minds?
Yeah, that got turned into a movie.
And that was a brilliant series from what I remember reading it at like 12 or something. But
Movies did alright too.
yeah, and it was a big thing in like the YA book culture for everyone at school as well. So clearly, like, it's not that she's not an incredible author and doesn't know how to write. It's more so this book
What was
left
the intention?
so much gaps and so much space for TV to just fill it in with whatever works when the story gets adapted to the screen. And that's what it felt like, because even there's so many parts where it goes into flashbacks out of nowhere, and I feel like it would make so much sense if it was like a new episode a week later that comes out and it starts with a flashback, because that would be like kind of similar to Supernaturals, but
Okay,
you know what I mean? Like, if it starts as a new episode, it makes sense. But when we read, especially when we read, we binge the whole thing in like 2 days or 3 days, and it's just and it was just like something happened, and then you just cut back to something entirely different, and you just don't follow the sequence. So that was my theory, and then I went on her Instagram to find like art for the book. Turns out there's not that much art for the book out there, and I think it's because
I wonder why.
there is no character description.
What do these people look like? Nobody knows.
The only like physical thing I remember about Law is that she was wearing jeans and she was fighting in jeans.
Underworld
The only
Fight
thing
Club.
that I remember, and I did note this down, was that Miles was Asian.
Yeah.
That's like the only distinctive trait
Korean
anyone had.
specifically, yeah.
Korean, yeah. Yeah.
Because his grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Law, she wore jeans and she had a black sports bra because someone got her a change of clothes and they had a black sports bra for her. That's the only thing I remember.
That defines a character right
again,
there.
like-
Jeans and a sports bra.
I assume she wore a shirt.
Any book that's written as a book, the first thing they would do is like, I looked into her hazel eyes, and
What
you're
they
like,
look
okay, she
like.
has hazel eyes. And then my raven black hair was tied into a braid, and you're like, okay, she has raven black hair. This girl, no description. I'm picturing her as a redhead with like freckles all over her face. I don't know why, but that's like the one photo that comes to my head all the time. It's like the girl from Nemo, the one with the fishes.
Odala.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like an older version of her.
gosh.
That's always the like filler image that comes to my head for any book.
My filler image is a blonde.
I think
Mine's always Darla. Always.
because there wasn't that like physical description, I put myself in that. So it was like, obviously it's Law running around in New York City, but it was me because like I think you default to what you look like almost, like a bit.
Yeah.
I see that, but also like when you put yourself in the book, which we all do,
Because it was
most
first
books.
like in her point of
Yeah,
view, like, oh, I am
exactly.
her kind of vibe
Yeah.
too.
But when you do that, like, you mainly do that when you feel some kind of emotion tethered to
Yeah.
it, and I couldn't feel anything. Her sisters and her
She
family
wore
was getting
jeans.
slaughtered, and I'm just like, okay, moving on. And usually, of the three of us, I cry the quickest for any kind of, like,
This is true.
anything, and I couldn't feel a single thing, so that's saying something about the character descriptions in itself.
Let's talk about the story.
Let's do that.
We have just been talking a lot of slack on the characters, but there were some definitely good parts about the story that I really liked. It was definitely another interesting take on adding Greek myth into an urban setting. So having Greek gods and people chasing after Greek gods running around New York City, definitely not something you see every day.
No.
So it was
In just
definitely...
one particular series, if I can find Percy Jackson,
Jackson, where
somewhere.
is it?
What I meant though was what I mean
Meant.
though. There's going to be a lot of that me saying words incorrectly. It's not a popular thing.
Yeah.
It is like there's a couple more books these days like that have come out like with Blood of Hercules and stuff. It's having that Greek myth.
I've read that and
But is that in like New York City or is it more like?
it's actually set in the future, 50 years in the future.
Oh, it's not that
I
long.
know it's a spark like that's a more of an academy setting though.
There's so many
related.
Greek mythology based books because Greek mythology got so popular. It always has been popular since the Iliad and
I
the
kind of
Odyssey.
feel like
but
though, but I kind of feel like Percy Jackson really led that charge.
because we all grew up reading it, and now we're at the stage
Except
where we
me,
love it.
who only read it this year.
Who was forced to, but she enjoyed
It was
it.
on my I was going to read it, but then
Like,
I
who
got
got
it
there?
sooner.
Yeah.
You and I hate you now because all I want to do is buy the rest of the series.
Which
and
is
I
so
love
good.
him.
I love the rest of the series.
you have enough to
great.
read.
But as I was gonna say, Percy Jackson like just did an incredible job. We don't talk about the rest of the series because they're just as good, but Percy Jackson was definitely like
I love
the
Heroes
crux
Olympus.
of it. Like
Books,
everyone
yeah.
like yeah, exactly. And it was just so brilliantly done. And like Greek mythology was well researched and it did match. I haven't reread it in like a long time, but from what I remember after Percy Jackson I did read The Odyssey and it kind of matched most of like Ares is supposed to be angry, so all of that was like very accurate to the character description, which I feel like other books that have replicated Greek mythology within their genre, they haven't stuck to that, and the reason might be because it's already been done so well.
Yeah.
So even Blood of Hercules, which we'll do later, has a similar kind of tangent in it, which I noticed was the case with Lore as well, where like for Tidebringer and stuff, like those names just honestly were like not it. And they changed it because you don't want to do like Poseidon and stuff
Over
like
and
that
over
again, and
again.
like you want to give those characters a different kind of personality to
You
what
want to
has
make
been
it your own unique version.
exactly. But sometimes I just think when you're using like such well-known lore
She said the title name.
and mythology that's so well known that you would kind of stick to it. Plus the author has a degree in like classical literature or something like that, and law by the way.
And law.
And yeah, so I think like she would know so well how the characters match or should match their descriptions, and I feel like I was really missing that because I think for new readers they would get really lost in the different words and different titles. They wouldn't be able to follow it. But for people who are seasoned Greek mythology readers like the three of us, I think we were just craving for a little bit more. Each time we were like, we just need a little bit more to tie us back to the characters.
I think with this one, it didn't introduce you to all the characters because they kind of gradually met all the other gods or like, you know,
Yeah.
over time. So it wasn't overwhelming, but you could have had that time to like go in deeper what they're about. But instead, you met them and they got killed off a page later.
I also think that had a lot to do with the fact that this book was on a timeline. Because
Yeah.
it's set in
It's
the
7
event.
days,
It's
yeah.
7 days. So no matter what the author did, she had to fit everything within
Yeah.
that time frame.
And I did like that she did that. But when they're running around at 4 a.m., I was like, is it 4 a.m.? And then
I
they
feel like never
slept.
slept. Like when they did sleep, it was very random and didn't seem like enough. Like you would
Yeah.
be exhausted.
And emotionally exhausted. She went through a
It was,
lot
I
in this
think,
book.
like, for the course of 7 days, even though this book is not that big, it still felt really dragged out.
It felt like a lot happened.
Yeah, in 7 days.
Because it did.
But I think that that's the tricky thing to do, especially because, like, again, she has to try and accomplish this, what she's trying to do.
I don't think it's tricky to do. I'm reading. Where's Quicksilver? Here. I was 87 pages in and she's in a different world, met like all the main characters, everything's done and dusted. And I'm like, that's what I want from a book. That's what I felt with Quicksilver, and I love when they get into it because I'm like, I don't care to fluff
It's
around.
straight in Quicksilver.
Yeah.
Like, straight away, she's, like, being choked.
Yeah, literally.
first sentence she's
Oh
being
my
choked.
gosh.
Not in a fun way.
Oofed. But if we
comes later.
if we compare it to Lore, like this book, there was so much that happened before the Aegon, like all the backstory and the family history,
And
and
get me started on the flashbacks.
and like all the alliances pre-Aegon. Like there's so much that happened that we didn't understand, but it was told to us through the flashbacks. But this is something I didn't like. I wanted to know more. I was like, well, and because it was fleshed out through the flashbacks, we didn't know till the end what actually happened, like 7 years ago, which is important information.
But then also that, I feel like that's obviously being done, though.
Intentionally.
Because of the end, where
Yeah.
Athena turns out to be the biggest bitch ever.
Yeah.
Spoiler!
I will.
And
Okay,
so
go
it
on.
kind of was linked to that with that sense. So she could, if she really reveals what happens at the start of the book, then
But-
you would know. But with that, I
Yeah.
actually feel like I would have preferred a story based on what happened to her as a kid versus the one we got. Like I would have preferred the flashback story over
little bit
the
more
main
fleshed
And then
out.
do a sequel.
Well, yeah, like even like if she wrote like a prequel and it was just that story, I'd actually be into it.
Or
because
like
it is
did a
quite
split,
interesting.
do a time jump
Like
or
having
something.
this whole thing with her family being obviously like
Killed.
no, not necessarily the kill part, but like,
Slaughtered.
so her going through that phase where her dad has to basically beg for another family to train her because they don't have the facilities to do it, and her going in and her meeting her best friend Castor and her learning to fight and watching his struggle with cancer.
I loved that.
All of that, like, that's a way more interesting story than what the
Yes,
actual main
I
story
agree.
was.
And I also think, like, that's another thing that I thought the book did, but did like only touched on, was like really deep themes. Like, there was clearly a lot of misogyny in that entire.
So much.
Yeah, like they're trying to marry off her dad was like, her dad clearly was a girl's girl, so he did it. Marry her off, but there was
Girls' dad.
clearly
But the
Yeah.
expectation was that
the
he would.
exactly. And also, like, the girl, I can't remember what it was called, but if a girl hunter can't lead the
Yeah, they
tribe,
weren't
their
allowed
house or
to
something. Yeah,
It
like, they
would
aren't allowed to lead the houses.
be like,
It's male only.
like it,
Yeah.
like it wasn't.
Matriarchy.
Yeah, it wasn't a
Yeah, yeah.
matriarchy.
So again, like, these were themes that I would have preferred to put
dive
more
into.
emotional weight to, because I just didn't care. And speaking of Athena, I actually really loved that she was the bitch.
Oh, me too. When that finally happened, I was like, yes, it's
I was like, finally,
interesting.
because the entire time I'm reading, I'm like, Athena is not supposed to be an empath. Athena is not.
What
supposed
is she
to be-
doing?
Like, what are you talking about? And I will say, like, this might just be me because of whatever reason, but Medusa's story being turned into like having a no Medusa's story, like, the real story is that Poseidon raped Medusa in Athena's temple.
Athena was so disgusted that she turned her into a Gorgon.
Yeah.
Gorgon?
It was to protect her though, right? Was that the
That's
idea?
what the law. That's what this book did. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was to protect her so that
But
she
that's
couldn't.
not the
Yeah.
reality of it.
Athena was just a bitch.
Yeah, she was like,
like
you can't do
Athena,
that in my
okay.
temple. And Medusa was like, but I didn't do anything. It was your brother or father or brother, uncle. Yeah.
Something.
And yes, and I was like, very accurate to games that God play, but we'll talk about
No,
that.
honestly, that plot twist when it happened,
Yeah.
like, so
It was
Athena
good.
actually stabs Law. Like, she finally turns around and goes, like,
Yeah, and I was like,
bitch, I was
that's
doing
an
this the whole
accurate.
time.
Yeah,
And I was like,
that.
this just got so much more interesting.
It did.
Because, like, she was kind of cool in the sense, like, watching her fight, like, the other people with Law. Like, yeah, it's kind of cool. But then she turned around and actually turned out to be the biggest bitch of all. And you're like, oh my god, this is so much more interesting.
Yeah, but that took place in like Act 3.
Yeah, I know.
It
like,
was so
I think we had
late.
like 4 or 5 chapters left.
Yeah,
And
and
oh no, you go.
no, that was exactly what I was gonna say. Like, if it happened earlier, I literally got through the entire book because it was the book of the month.
But something
Ooh,
I
even a
like.
possible DNF.
Ooh.
Yeah, I DNF books left, right, center.
I
I have
yeah,
no
I know.
remorse.
I can't. I think I really did myself a disjustice by like forcing myself to read things. But
Entire series. She keeps going.
wrong next. That's for another video, which we will get into.
I'm
but-
scared for that video.
I feel like I have this mentality that I'm like, I feel like if I stop reading a book, even if I'm not liking it, I'm not giving it a full chance. Because I know, like, some
Stopped
books,
halfway, you wouldn't have known that plot twist.
yeah. And it would have been like, I would have very different interpretation of the book. I understand, like, completely, like, if you don't want to read a book, don't force yourself to read a book. But
Like,
for
I get
myself,
it,
I don't like myself, so therefore I force myself to read it.
Neither do I. That's why I read all of Deadly Education.
I had to make sure it was really and truly shit.
I had to give it not 1, not 2, but 3 goes.
This is spoilers for our next review that's coming.
Sorry, what I was gonna say is I liked the plot twist of Athena being like the bad guy, but what was it called? It was like a bargain. It was like an unbreakable vow from Harry Potter.
I don't remember the
Yeah,
exact
but it was a
specific term
bargain
for
or
it.
like a
But
something.
it literally linked their lives together. So
It
one
was-
of them died, the other died.
It was
Oh,
very
yeah,
much
yeah.
like the unbreakable vow from Harry Potter. But
I think it was, I'm about to die. Do you want to tie your life to me? And I was like, no. And Law's like, yes.
absolutely.
But also, after all that, that's actually one thing that really annoyed me about the start of the book was that she literally spent like 7 years trying to get away from this world.
She's
To
like,
get
alright.
outside of it. First instance of her being back in, sure, let me make an unbreakable vow that could possibly kill me.
But that's what I'm trying to get to. Is the unbreakable vow was so important, and like Law's like, I have to help Athena. I have to help her, otherwise I might die. So everything I have to
Care
do.
to live?
But here's the thing.
She never showed us any kind of like
Well,
that.
yeah, I
I
don't
want to keep
know.
going. Like, Castor was already powerful. She was ready to give up.
yeah. But like at the end when it was twisted and Athena's the bad guy, and she's like, did you really think I would make like an unbreakable vow with you? And so like it was fake. like, or like it wasn't actually an unbreakable vow.
Yeah. She was
And I'm
like, I
like-
would never touch myself.
And I'm like, but then you didn't explain like how it breaks or how was it fake, or like I wanted to understand that bit, and I was kind of sad about that.
Yeah, I feel like that the actual how the vow works beyond the fact
Wasn't explained.
Yeah, there was none of
No.
that. But because also like when they did it, they literally like just
Shook hands. I don't even know if they shook
there
hands.
was no real like
Finality,
ceremony
yeah.
to like specify. Yeah, it's like solidified because you think if you're making this magical contract,
Yeah.
there would be some sort of like sparkle. You'd feel something, or
Yeah.
whatever. But at any point, it's kind of just like it's literally like they just go.
And
Yeah,
I don't
deal.
even remember what
Like,
they
That's
did.
literally what it was like.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact actions, but like
But
that's
it
what
didn't
felt
feel
like.
very important, but yet it
No.
fueled her decisions, and then it was fake
So much.
and didn't
More
matter.
than that was that she has trained, like Law has trained to participate in the
And
Avon.
she
like,
should know.
Exactly. You would think she'd know the basics.
So if she should know, then we should know. But I'm like, she didn't explain it to us.
it happens so early in the book at the point where the reader just accepts whatever thrown
Yeah,
at
so
them,
you're like,
that
of
you just
course.
don't question it. And at least for the three of us, what I know, we take notes because we
Yes.
discuss later.
We do.
And I'm always thinking of like everything that connects to like a really bad extent, and I couldn't connect the dots, and I don't give up on like trying to make sense of it. But if I couldn't, then I just know that like again, it was just that intention of keeping the gap to talk about later. Or maybe she was like, Alexandra was just like, oh, they will do something with the visual effects in the big screen
That'll make them go like,
little sparkle sparkle. And
Well,
there you
I can't
go.
go sparkle sparkle because nothing actually really happened. So maybe it will just be a generic handshake.
Yeah.
The audiences will be like, what the hell just
yeah,
happened?
it won't have
But
that
then that
visual
would like
weight
stick
to
to
it.
the audience. They'll just be like, when it happens
You know,
later.
or maybe what'll happen, it'll be like the eye contact. We won't actually see the action. You'll just see like the eyeballs, like the intent.
There'll be shaking hands, but it's
Maybe you should
just.
start reviewing movies as well.
Let us know down the comments. Do you want our thoughts on
Yeah,
movies?
do you want to?
Specifically supernatural.
Dude, we would be here forever.
I don't think I can
Jazzy.
commit to that.
Okay,
We'll
this will be it'll be a side show of just me and Alisha talking about supernatural for hours on
And
end.
I'll just sit here like nodding the entire
She'll be
time.
asleep, curled up
Yeah.
in the corner. The cat will join her.
Yeah, literally.
Okay, but shall we actually talk some more about
What we liked.
because
I
yeah,
wanna talk
we have.
about the characters a little bit more, but I want to say
We'll get to the characters.
Okay.
So I just wanted to feel because I feel like we've talked a lot about what we haven't liked. Like obviously we mentioned the fact that we liked Athena's betrayal.
It could have
But
been
what are
better.
some other things that, like, you know, what did you like? Like, what's something
I
particular?
liked Miles and Van. Is compared
Van?
to Van.
You mean their relationship?
Yeah. Why I liked their relationship or their character growth was because they weren't the focus point of the story whatsoever. Yeah, I still felt more connected to Miles and Van, mostly because Miles was more banter and like funny and kind of like connected to reality because he was just like, guys, what you're
was.
talking about is kind of unhinged. Like, you just said let's go kill a bunch of people and we are all just like nodded heads.
I feel like he fitted his role really well because he
Yeah.
really was like the person who's like the normal person who's obviously not involved in this and actually going, hang on, that's weird. Like, why? And he actually asking the questions that we would ourselves would be
Yeah.
asking in the same situation.
And that's what I felt like. I felt like he
Was
was
us.
us because,
Yeah.
especially us as someone who reads books, like if you put me in that kind of situation where I've read so many books, like I would adapt quickly, but I'll also be like, this is crazy. But I would still go on with it because I'm like, my life has finally taken a turn for the better and it's a magical story. So let's go with it. That's kind of like, it feels like he just like grew up watching anime and he's like, well,
I'm here
that's
now.
my- here we go. But I liked their relationship arc or character growth
Yeah.
so much more than Laura and Castor because I could not connect to those two whatsoever.
Yeah.
In the end, they're like hugging and cuddling and seeing the stars and shit, and I'm just like, why?
But you
Why?
could only connect to them through the flashbacks. Like, because they weren't really together, I feel like a lot, but they were together as kids, and that was the friends to lovers story, but you didn't know about it because it was only...
This is again jumping on the bandwagon on things we don't like. I hate friends to lovers because I feel like it's not a thing for me purely for the fact I'm like, okay, I get it, like if people like you initially know each other with kids and your friends because obviously there's no romance generally involved, but if you're
That's what this
still
was.
friends when you're like get to the point where romance becomes a thing, I feel like it can be weird.
Oh, yeah.
I would say you should avoid shadow and bone. in
I
that.
know what I've seen. I've watched the
Yeah.
show of Shadowbone, so I know what happens. But at the same point, like there's nothing. Don't get me wrong. It can work.
Yeah.
It definitely didn't work in Law.
No, I don't think it
like
felt out of
friends
place.
smooching, and it was just like this
It
is-
felt very
like
out of place.
convenience.
Yeah, it felt very forced.
Yeah.
Like she was trying to force a relationship on the two when they were just like. I would not have been mad if there was no romance in this at all.
I didn't. I didn't.
honestly,
Yeah,
as friends,
I agree.
I don't think
that
it
would have been
needed
fine.
it.
No, it didn't.
It didn't add.
And if you wanted,
to
like,
it.
if she still wanted, like, well, she can keep the romance between Miles and
You know,
Van.
like City of Bones and this book are almost the same size, and there was like 50 plot twists with their romance in that book. Yet they also had the whole like.
She's in love with her brother.
It was not
Oh.
her brother. Also, if we accept Luke and Leah, then we
Oh,
should
that
definitely
wasn't
accept-
accepted.
What do you mean? People still love Star Wars, so we should still love Mortal Instruments.
Twins.
Ooh, that's gross.
Exactly. Exactly.
This book is like literally around the same length, and I feel like it lacked just so much. Like so much could have been done.
It had all the plot twists, but they were all just within like the last like 5 chapters.
Well, I think the only basically the two major plot twists was Athena, and then the
Where
old
she-
guy being
Oh,
Hermes.
Hermes. And
They were,
then
like,
the
only two plot
shield.
twists. Oh,
But like that
I
wasn't
don't
a
really
plot
know
twist.
that,
That
no.
was just
Shield
prolonged
was like
information.
a whole subplot that I was not following.
the
Whatsoever.
shield thing I felt though, I
It's
didn't
like the
like
shield
that.
did nothing.
Like, because there was no, because normally when like a character's hiding that big of a secret, you
They
can
will know.
feel when you're reading.
Also, we were
That's
in her
like-
pub.
Yeah, like you would
Yeah.
feel her doubts about it. She was like, nah, I don't know where it is. I really don't know where it is. And she's telling herself that. And I get like having denial, but
Yeah.
But this wasn't.
denial isn't like solidified like that.
Yeah.
You would feel in her inner monologue
That she's
that
conflicted.
something
Yeah.
is like she's not quite like she's saying she doesn't know where it is, but
But
you
she's
can feel the doubt
hesitant
in
or-
herself. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was not. It was basically like the whole book. The author was like, "Nah, she doesn't actually know." But oh wait, no, I actually need to use this. So suddenly she knows where it is,
Yeah.
and she actually does know what happened to
Yeah.
it.
So
And
for
that whole aspect, I was kind of like, da-da-na.
yeah. So for those who haven't read the book but want the spoiler, one of the bad guys spends the entire book going, "I need this shield, so that my defendants can basically
Which is where
wield it."
Medusa comes from, because she's on the.
Oh yeah, Medusa's face
It
is
was
on the
Medusa's
shield.
shield, which is actually Athena's shield, which was given to Law's family
So it's her
at
family
the start
shield.
of the Aegon to use.
The last Aegon.
Yeah,
Or,
and
whatever.
they're the only family that can wield
Use it.
So they have some magical gift that lets them pick it up. Because
That's
apparently
why
it's
the
stupidly
bad
heaven.
guy wanted to marry Law.
so that his family line could use it. So even if he couldn't, like, I guess use her to make kids, in the end of this, it was disgusting. Yeah, no,
That's a whole other topic.
I want to get into it.
It's very fitting for Greek mythology.
But like, the point was, like, he still wanted to have the shield, and he had it at some point, but then it got stolen.
She stole it.
Well, she didn't admit that
Yeah,
until
we
the
found
last
out that she
chapter.
stole it.
And she hid it in a spot that only she could find. But the whole book, she denied it in herself. And so we were like, well, where is the shield?
That was
And
really
then-
frustrating.
But then what annoyed me more about it was the fact that the guy's like, well, it's been stolen the whole time. She's like, oh no, where is it? And then I think he bluffed and something. He's like, oh, now I have it. And she goes, how can he have it? Like, where did he find it? He found it. And I'm like, well, how do you know where it is? Do you not know where it is? Like, if you knew where it was, because she hid it so well, then you would know he didn't have it. Or go and check it. No. Takes the entire book to go and find it.
Yeah,
it was the whole point that it was first Pov and us as a reader had
Stuck
no
in that.
idea what's going on. Because you should know. We should know.
Like the
Or do
only
it that
time a
Pov.
reader in first point of view doesn't know what's going on is if the actual person doesn't, the character doesn't. If they don't know what's going on, then it makes sense for you to not know what's going on. But if they know what's going on, you should be 100% aware of what's going on as well.
Yeah.
And it would have been intentionally written that way, which is like fine, but it
Again,
didn't
forgetting-
feel intentional in the way it was written.
It feels like a script.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably why.
And also, why the hell does no one in New York know what's going on when you flood an entire garden.
Yeah, that was
Oh my gosh.
actually that was one of my things I really
Hold
did
this 1
make.
second.
I really did make a note of was the fact that they're running around this flooded city, and I'm sorry if it's like that bad of an emergency.
Map
Might have
of
to
New
zoom
York.
in.
You know, you could just
Central
Google it.
Park.
Look at it.
Google Maps like give you a way better one.
Yeah.
But no, like they're literally running around in the middle of a crisis.
In a natural disaster.
Yeah, like I'm sorry, someone would be like, "What are you doing?"
People, no.
And also, they're
people
not dressed normally. They're dressed with fucking masks on. And they've got like I'm
They've got,
sorry,
like,
shields
togas and
you cops, fire people, firefighters, ambulance people. They'd be like, "What the hell are you doing?"
How do you firefight an entire flood?
And also, they're teenagers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would be like, "Go home or get like to safety."
And you go
Why
to
are
the
you-
shelter where
why are
everybody
you
else
running
is.
through the flooded street. And like, also, how the hell do they get around the flooded streets so easily? It's like it's not even.
No,
funny.
they went through the sewage tunnels or
At
something.
one point, yes, but then also they're tracking one of the
The girls
one
from
of the no, it wasn't a girl. Was it a girl? Or maybe it was a girl. But it was one of
I
the
know
people
exactly the
from
scene.
the enemy family.
Oh,
They were
yeah.
literally tracking her through the street.
And
Flooded
hang on. It said that she had ease, like, going through the street, and the next second, they're following her, and they're struggling in the water, and I was like, so is the street flooded, or is it not flooded?
Oh no.
No.
No, this was just another one of the.
Oh, from the
I
bad
keep wanting
family.
to call them mortals, but they're technically
not.
all mortal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to
But
refer to
it was
them.
so frustrating visually, like, what's going on? Because it was within a minute, and it's like, well, the first girl didn't struggle through the street in the flood, but then everyone else did, and you're like,
Yeah,
well,
Yeah.
There was a few inconsistencies like
Yeah,
that,
and that's-
especially in that flooding.
that's why I
section.
struggled
Yeah.
visually with what the heck was going on.
Also, the whole flood in general was just
Weird.
a bizarre
Cinematic,
choice.
but like very, very what's it called?
That's some expensive green screen for future. Just saying, Sorry, CGI.
Inconvenient.
it'll be CGI, not green
Yeah,
screen.
but again, bringing it back to Mortal Instruments because Cassandra
Someone clearly has an obsession.
they run around
I also,
Manhattan
I
and
also love the
London.
fact every time you talk about a book, you try and find it on my shelf too.
Yeah,
Like,
this is-
it's up here.
This is no. When I do things by myself at home, I'm always pointing to my shelf. It's whatever.
And you sit alone in your room, you're like, yes, more instruments.
When she's
Yes,
talking to the
Jackson.
voices in her head.
Sorry.
Not
Mine,
allowed,
mine
no.
talk back to me, so.
I'm actually generally talking to my cat, so
Yeah, and I have Ryan to
and
talk
sometimes
to,
she
so.
feel it's really fun.
Oh,
Do you
how
talk,
cute.
do you talk to your cat sometimes and it feels like they actually understand? Do you ever have that?
Yeah. I'll talk
That's
to them.
that's a doubt. That's nope.
Anyway, Mortal
Have your
Instruments
say.
up there. You can't even see because it's not in the frame. But in that series, like they run around the city doing all kind of chaotic things, and there's fairies and vampires and warlocks. But they make it very apparent from the first book itself that they have marks and runes and other ways to hide what's going on
Yeah, it's
in
hidden.
front of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So it disguises as something else. So
Same with Percy Jackson and the
yes,
Mist. But
exactly.
that was a great explanation
But
as to
in
why nobody
law-
else noticed.
But in law,
None of that. I'm
None
like,
of
what's
that.
happening to New York? New
Also,
York is a busy place.
People are just getting
I
stabbed
assume.
in the middle of the street and like killing
Well,
people.
I feel like that's
how
just
do you-
very American. No one's phased by that.
we are
They're
in
just like, "Oh, this is
Australia.
going on."
Australia, we have some concerns.
Yeah, I think we're very different reading it from it being in
Yeah,
Australia.
we would be phased
But then-
wildly.
But then, like in the story, like this is like hidden, but not explained why. But then they've got the two girls who get put in the ball thing, and they like torture them, and that goes on the news, and that's used to send a message to Law, the main character. But it's like, well, if that got on the news, why did nothing else?
You're like, why is it not being reported that these people are running around New York City in masks?
And just killing
this-
people left, right, and center.
Yeah.
If it was LA, for some reason,
Nobody would question it. Not a single person would question that in LA. I think we've shat on the story a lot.
I know.
a lot.
I will say though, this book had really good potential, and I think the only reason it had so many gaps is because it is built for the big screen.
Yeah, it
And
was.
I
It wasn't
will-
built. It wasn't written
Yeah.
to be a book.
Like, again,
It is a book.
Shadowhunters. Excellent series, but when it was put on the big screen as a movie and a TV show, my gosh, that TV show was interesting. I had to watch it with a complete different lens. I could not see the characters or the story as what it was in the books because it just could not translate well.
Do you mean the Netflix one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Not the movie, you mean the TV show.
Yeah, the movie as
I've
well.
watched
Actually,
part
I
of
love
that.
the
I
movie.
don't remember.
Jamie Campbell Bower as...
And Lily Collins.
Oh!
I loved them, and the guy that played Simon, and everything was perfect about that book. Magnus was amazing.
But I also love Magnus from the TV show. I think that actor did a really good job as Magnus.
I still love the movie one. Anyway,
No, I do too.
I like Izzy from the TV show.
Oh, yes.
She's kinda bad.
I preferred her than the one from the movie.
Yeah. But I will
I
say,
agree. I haven't watched it.
I will say, like, that was so hard to translate to the screen. It just didn't work. You could not see it as the same thing whatsoever. I think this could be translated so well because there's just so much gaps.
Yeah,
There's
they
no
could really
concrete
make
story.
it their own, and I don't think
Exactly.
you could do a bad adaptation
No,
of it.
and Percy Jackson as well, like the movie and the TV show. Like I love the book so much, but even the TV show, like
It's still good.
it's so cute, but it's just
I will say the TV show is 10 times better than the movie.
10
Because
Oh,
the movie,
yes.
obviously, they've tried to make it for teenagers.
The movie.
The movie, like,
Oh,
no, look,
man.
as the first one's actually, like, as if you don't
The
look at it
first
as an
one's-
adaptation,
yeah.
it's kind of just a fun little
It's
movie,
fun.
right?
It's
The
fun.
When
sequel
you
is
know-
atrocious, but then the actual TV show, they've actually tried to be more true to the
And
original
it's
book.
because they have the whole series like a potential. So when you look at the movies and you're like, oh well, they've stuffed it, but the TV show is trying to play that out to get
Yeah.
through the entire like
Yeah.
content.
And I think what they're actually doing, because what I feel like they did with the first season of the TV show, it's kind of most of the first book. You don't
Yeah.
quite get to the end of the first book,
No.
but it's pretty much most of the way there.
Yeah.
And so I feel like each season will kind of touch on a book
But
and
I
give you
think-
more opportunity to flesh it out.
Yeah,
They made
yeah.
they still made lots of changes. Again, I watched the show before I read the book, so it was
Yeah, I
very
can't
obvious to me. I
remember.
kind of went, oh, that's different that way. That's that different that way. But also some of the changes for the screen make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I understand that, but like for Harry Potter being turned into a TV show, I'm terrified
That's not
because I'm like having it as a
The movies
TV
did
show.
well.
There will be but there's so much content that didn't make it into the movies.
Yeah.
Like most people would not know that in book 5 the actual school gets turned into a swamp.
Yeah.
Thanks to Fred and George.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favourite
And
parts.
Peeves, yeah, he helps. Does he help a bit?
I don't remember that part actually.
Oh, I don't remember. But anyway.
But just the fact, but there's a
Yeah.
whole section where friggin' what's his name?
I don't even know what you're on about.
Filch.
Filch, the
Filch.
groundskeeper.
He's not the
Oh,
groundskeeper.
well, the nanny then.
Whatever. He's
basically a nanny. He has no magic powers and he just walks around.
He's a
Sorry.
there is a term for him,
He's a
but I can't.
squib.
He's squib. Thank you. My brain's not functioning today.
I
I'm
know.
the Harry Potter nerd, and it's not happening today.
Dude,
because-
behind you is all your Harry Potter like Lego and merch.
And there's
and
not
I'm just
full
looking at it.
collections of Harry Potter on this shelf at all. No, but so there's this whole scene in book 5 with the swamp where he's literally having to boat people from one side to the other
I forgot
so
about
people
that.
can get to glasses. And
Yeah.
it's the best. I love it so much. But yeah, I actually forgot the whole point that we were talking about. I got
have no
so
idea.
lost
Okay.
trying to think of Harry Potter.
To screen, yeah, but again with Percy
that's what we're
Jackson, the
talking
TV
about.
show as well, like I really like it. The excitement of the book can just like I just don't feel like it's translated, and I feel like this one will because the book was not exciting.
Yeah, they can make it their own.
Yeah, they can
Okay.
really twist it as they like.
Go
But
on.
let's
Any other
jump
points?
from story to characters.
I think we've talked about.
We
characters.
have. I think
I
there's
don't
a couple things though.
You go. If you have something to share, go.
I think I think it was the emotional depth was really what I wanted to touch on a little bit.
Go on.
With
The
the
lack of
fact
it.
that so I felt like obviously Laura's meant to be extremely traumatized. Basically, she
Pretty
blames
big.
herself, and she kind of is, which is the sad part, responsible for her entire family's death
Yeah.
because she did something she shouldn't have done, which was she snuck out, left the window open, which gave Athena the chance to slip in and kill her entire family.
I feel like I think you can get through a window even if
No,
it was close.
But there was a point because of the protection
Oh,
around
yeah.
her. So the fact that Laura left the window open so she could get back in without getting caught was what let Athena into the apartment.
If she had just snuck out and shut the window and then like knocked on the door, like her family would have let her in.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that they were murdered because she left the
And
window
then she comes
open.
back, windows shut, and she's like, oh crap. And then she walks upstairs and goes,
Which is crap.
But like, yeah, so she's supposed to be this like traumatized, right?
Yeah, and that's why she suppresses all the memories and.
She was barely.
But she's not. You don't like if you're traumatized from that type of shit. She doesn't
She was
act like she's
brutally
traumatized.
murdered. Like she tortured the sisters to get. From
Yeah,
them
like
where
took
Laura
their
is.
eyes out.
Yeah,
like
and her
crazy.
sisters were
She would be
babies
experiencing
almost.
that.
Yeah.
Through the whole act, like, she would have moments where she's like she would feel that.
Or like panic attack or
Yeah,
some
but
like response.
nothing.
Panic attacks from work, and no one was
I have
slaughtered.
panic attacks from getting out of bed in the morning. But like,
But in this,
like,
she's casually running around killing people.
yeah,
And
there's
no.
like you would feel like she would have some form of hesitation.
Yeah.
Where when she goes to do that type of action, or if someone goes after her,
Like a flash, like a
or like
a
just
memory
actions
or,
by other people around her,
yeah.
you would think she would have some form of response. And yes, okay, you could say that she's dealt with her trauma for 7 years, in the 7 years, but she
It'd
hasn't.
take longer.
She's been running from this for 7 years, so she hasn't faced anything.
Yeah.
She's supposed to, I suppose she's supposed to have been facing everything that's happened
Within
with
the
but
Aegon.
She
Yeah.
doesn't really. Like, the
No.
only time she kind of accepts that something happens is at the very end when she goes and gets the shield and then tells Caster what
And that's
happened.
because she was suppressing it so much.
Yeah.
Fair. That makes me think of, just going to relate it to another series,
Go on.
The Hunger Games, where we see the entire trilogy from Katniss's point, and she's been so
Yeah.
traumatized and deals with PTSD and so many different mental states where you can feel the numbness of the character and the detachment she feels with the world. And I
with the
tried to
deaths
think
as well,
and
yeah.
I've tried to think about that from Laura's perspective. But when we go back to the flashback of her sisters, like her seeing her sisters dead, like that was like the first experience she had where it was like someone so close
Personal,
to her.
yeah.
So personal, and there was no emotional weight to it. And it was just that just made it so much harder to relate and connect with her as a character. It's just like I just couldn't picture her as like, I could not attach a personality to her. It was just really hard to build something of her.
And I feel like it's the same for pretty much all the characters.
Yeah.
Caster, like, he literally dealt with cancer. Like,
Yeah.
he was dying from cancer.
Like dying.
Like, he was on his deathbed. And the only reason he survived is because...
He became a god.
Was
Was
it?
it Apollo?
Yeah,
Apollo chose to kill himself to save Caster's life.
That twist.
I thought that
Yes.
that was very
that.
interesting, that part.
And
of
it
that,
made
because,
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there was that mystery of because Caster didn't even know how he became the new Apollo the whole book until we get to that point where it's kind of revealed.
And I was trying to think the entire time of the book that if someone was to gift their powers, which they can't do because of Zeus's curse, like how would that even play out? And I loved how that arc kind of followed through. That was quite nice.
Yeah. But also on the sense of that, on top from that,
Go
I
on.
didn't actually
Go
like
on.
the way they finalised the end of Dagon.
Yeah.
Dagon. I thought it was like, that's it, really.
Did they end up in Olympus?
No, because
No, they were on the roof.
No, but
Oh,
the
yeah.
end
What do
of
you
the-
mean?
No, so not the story.
Oh,
I meant
I don't remember.
So the Aegon,
Okay,
whatever
I
it
feel
is,
like there was somewhere.
they finally
Yeah.
it was over because all the gods were dead or whatever. But like because of Athena's sacrifice or whatever and giving her power to Law
Yeah.
so that she could beat whatever the fucking bad guy's name was. I don't remember him.
Yeah,
It's
the
Wrath.
bad guy.
Wrath, it was
Yeah.
Wrath. Terrible name.
Very
He was
scary
what,
about
for the
it.
God of War.
Ares.
Yeah, he was
the
Ares.
2.0.
Again.
Predecessor. But the fact that was the way it ended, I was kind of like, seriously? Like, that's it?
Yeah.
Like, the gods just had to be selfless and like, but that's not the reason. Like, I feel like Zeus created this to punish them. So there would be technically no end to it for the punishment.
But their out was that they had to do something they wouldn't have done. I guess it was kind of like a trick.
But then, what
Yeah.
necessarily?
Why would you put it in
so
there?
Apollo got released because he gave his power to Caster.
Yeah.
And then the other gods just kept dying and their power kept getting transferred over and over again.
But
So then how is that? So if they killed every single god like that, right?
Yeah.
And they just kept going on and on and on. So if there was no original gods left, how would it ever end? It wouldn't.
But no.
So
The
in
thing was, if I was a god and you were a god and I killed you, your power would just disappear and you would disappear. But if a mortal killed you, then your power would go on. So you kind of could get an out, but if you were a god. But I guess you had to either let someone kill you who was a god, like let a god kill you, or kill yourself.
I'm saying like it doesn't really. To me, it doesn't
Yeah.
make like
But
It's
because
not
they,
a good rounded way to
Yeah.
end it off, is what I'm saying.
the gods
I
wanted
feel
to
like there's too
hold
many
that power.
questions, there's too many possibilities. It's like, it just, I don't know, it just didn't, like,
Yeah, yeah.
when I read the end of that, I kind of just went, that doesn't feel, it's not satisfying. I
It
suppose is a
wasn't.
great-
It
is a good way
wasn't.
to
It
say
didn't feel like a big climatic end to
Yeah.
the Aegon, which has been like torturing people for decades.
But
Like
if
there's
it-
schools built to train
Yeah.
people and
Yeah,
hunters and
legit.
stuff,
Yeah.
and like
But if
all
it
of
was a
that's just
movie, you
glass.
could have nice what is the word?
Cinematic.
Cinematic music over the back
Yeah.
of it, and it'd be like, mwah.
Yeah, I was saying that this could easily go into like a second season where Zeus comes to Manhattan. He's
And
like,
then
why
takes it
did
out."
the Aegon stop, guys? Let me curse you guys again. This is not how
Yeah,
it's
legit.
supposed to go. I wanted you guys to keep fighting so I can rule over Olympus or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of cliffhangers for that reason. Didn't
Also,
even know
I
Castor.
probably think I would have enjoyed it more if they died. That sounds horrible, but if their actual ending, because the Aegon was over,
Or
Yeah.
one
and
of
if
them
they just
dies.
went, like, I feel like, no, but they had both had god powers by that point.
That's true.
So I feel like if they'd both just
Yeah.
cucked it, I think I would have found that more
It
satisfying.
kind of ended, and they were looking up at the stars, and they had to wait for that 7th day to tick over to the 8th day, which marked the end of the competition and like the end of the book, basically. And I think they kissed, and then they looked up and was like, "Oh, it's bright now because the sun's coming up."
The time was over. Well, the
And
thing
now
was,
it-
though, is because they were gods, if it was still going to continue, they would have lost their mortal bodies. They would have turned into the god forms.
Yeah, I
Which
guess
then they
so.
would have to become
There was
back to
something
human.
about them disappearing or something.
Yeah, well, that was the point. I think if the Aegon wasn't over and it would continue on, their mortal, like the physical forms would
They
have
would just be
disappeared.
there. Is
And
it
they would've-
astral form?
Yeah,
I
they would
guess.
have
Yeah.
gone back to their godly form.
Yeah, yeah.
And some of them, like, so there was one thing where those who did have the god powers could then, after that was over, return to a physical
Had to
form.
have that power. Which
But
Castor
not
didn't because he was missing for the 7 years.
Yeah, he didn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't able to bring himself back. So the fact, and when that day ended and they kept their mortal form, it was
They were like-
it's over for good. That was kind of like
Yeah, actually,
the
I forgot
point
about
of
that.
that.
Clearly, it
But
didn't
again,
hit home for me.
still just
Yeah.
meh.
I will say, I've read the games that God play. In that, it talks about how, well, there's Greek gods and stuff, but there's also Norse gods, there's also Christian gods, there's also Abrahamic. That it's a mix and
Ooh,
cluster.
all the gods. I
Yeah.
like that.
We haven't fleshed out the religion system at all in the book, by the way. That's one of my critiques of the book. But maybe we'll flesh it out slightly more in the next one. Anyway, that sort of makes sense because she makes a comment in that book where she was like, I'm just going to start praying to other gods after this entire thing because what the heck.
Try them all out. so
Yeah.
there you
She's like, these ones are making me fight. I don't like that. I'm
See
going to
which
just
one
go to the
likes
other
me.
gods. And I think about that in law or like in books in general sometimes when they like focus on one religious system, like I know Greek mythology isn't wrong, but in law like they do is they call them gods and like they clearly want to hold power and each god has like their own thing, you know, like Apollo for like obviously like the medical and stuff, and then Poseidon for water and monsters and horses and stuff, like all these different kind of things. I'm just like, why do you want to hold on to that power if you're not able to do anything with that power? Like, what's the point in ruling? Like, what are you ruling over? It's clearly not the people.
Nah, their thing was that if you had that power, like a god in your family, they could make such an impact for your finances to set you up for that next generation. It was
Just
pretty
a
much
financial
manipulate.
thing.
They could. They used
Manipulate.
their godly powers to manipulate the mortal world.
maybe. But there was things like, let's say like Apollo is with medicine, and they'd be like, oh, well then there'd be a new plague that hit, and so then their family would have the cure,
They
and so
would
their
cause
family would get
problems.
rich. Yeah,
So
basically.
essentially how the world works.
Pretty much, it's to put their family
Maybe it's meant
forward.
to be a commentary on
Maybe we've
those
missed that
types of
part
things.
entirely.
So anyway, if you think that's what law is about,
Yes,
that
then
would
we
be
clearly
covered.
missed the plot.
okay.
Anything else,
So,
Sarah?
I think we've covered pretty much anything, unless you guys have anything else you want to talk about.
I had a really funny quote I want to
Go for
share.
it.
Okay, go
It's
for
in
it.
my anyway. So this is when Law is explaining it to Miles, and Law's like blah blah, and she's like, Law's like, you wouldn't understand, and Miles is like, well, I definitely won't if you don't explain it. And that's how I felt the entire book. I was like, I don't understand what's going on, and you're not explaining it.
I love
So
that.
really
The
good.
best quote was from Miles because that's the only character I
Yeah,
enjoy.
I think we can all agree Miles was
Oh,
top
I
tier in that
love
book.
It was.
It was good. Okay, so shall we give final ratings and any final thought?
Well, I don't have
thought
any
as
final
well.
thoughts. I liked it. I didn't love it, but I didn't know what was going on.
Out of 5 stars, what did you
Out
give
of
it?
5, I gave it 2.5. Yeah, I think I was being gracious.
Alisha?
I did like the book. I think it has potential. If it hits the big screens, I'm excited to see how it goes. And I love that because it won book club book of the month. We got you to read Percy Jackson right after.
Yes.
So something good came out of it, didn't it?
Yeah, it was definitely good.
Exactly.
Yes.
I will give it 2 on 5 simply because of potential, and Miles gets a star.
So, as in, if 1 star was for potential and 1 star was for Miles, what would you rate it?
-3 for the rest
Wow.
of it.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel
2
like
and
I'm
5.
being really generous because I've actually given it a 3 out of 5.
Really?
So
she
which-
complained the most.
She did.
when we read the book.
So look, when I have said this to you guys before, I very much generally have multiple ratings for books. I have my initial rating, it's how I feel after I finish it, and then how I think of when it
Once it
kind of like
settles.
dwells and I think about it, my ratings change. So I have given it a 3 out of 5. My note here, it was very mid.
Yeah.
Not great, but
Yes.
not terrible. So it's like, it's definitely, I would recommend it for people who like Greek mythology.
Yeah.
If you like Greek mythology in an urban setting, I would definitely say give it a go.
Yeah.
Because, like, as we've mentioned a lot, it would be a great movie adaptation. It has a lot of potential. So I don't think it's something, because like if I'm rating something a 2, I'm not recommending it to anybody.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's very much on my rating scale. 2 is a meh.
This is a mid, not a meh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's mid, not a meh. So yeah, so that's why I gave it a 3. But yeah, my main thing was that it's just lacks emotional depth and it's very plot driven. It's not character driven in any way.
Yeah. I will also say that, like, and I forgot what I wanted to say.
That's a first.
Well, you didn't explain it, so I don't understand it.
Can't read your mind.
What you if something off what you were saying. What did you talk about?
It was mid, lacks emotional depth. It's plot driven.
Remembered. I think also because we have read some really exceptional work, which is why all our understanding or like likeness towards books is so relative. If I had read this book and this alone, I would have been like, oh my gosh, there's so much that happened. It was amazing. But because I've read so many amazing books, I was just like, there could have been more. And we have like those tools and literary devices that we've seen.
I
being
think we
used.
all would agree the fact that we are character-driven readers. We like stories that are
Yes.
driven
Oh,
by
yeah,
characters.
For sure.
Because I feel like sometimes
And themes.
there obviously are very much places for plot-driven books, but without characters, there's no plot. And so you need those motivations to push a story
But I
through.
also think it's because we read to enjoy and escape and not to learn.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because, like, if you see from the selection of books, which is the exact replica of
This
my
one,
bookshelf at
this one
home.
right here. Whew.
Oh, yeah, good one. But I think, like, because I have friends who read a lot, but they will read books like The Rest
Self-help.
My Year of Rest and Relaxation, or
Yeah.
Self-help books.
any Sally
Yeah.
Rooney books or things like that, which is
I
like,
love.
and those are really good books, and I quite like. I've read them too, so I won't bag on it. But I do enjoy that. But that's like something I read, like.
With a different mindset.
We're not
Yes,
reading this
I'm not
for
reading,
education.
Yeah,
We're reading this
I
for
like to
pure
read. That's why
enjoyment.
we
Yeah.
like character driven, because we just want to read like for fun, fantasy, romantasy,
Yeah.
just escapism. Not
Yeah.
think about our 9 to 5 on the computer jobs. Like
Yes.
no, that like we just want to read about war and being in the middle of it, and
And a hot boyfriend.
fantasy war and being in the middle of magic.
Yeah,
Let me
that's
just
fair.
rephrase.
That's fair.
And some 6'4", dark-haired,
Yeah.
fae.
Yeah.
That just
Who
have
is
filthy mouths.
1,735 years
Or
old?
vampires. I'm not opposed to vampires.
We
I've
love.
been reading about a 1,500-year-old vampire recently, and he is divine.
So, right, this is my final question. Would you watch the movie when it comes out? I would watch it with hope that it's better than the book.
I think it
Well,
will be.
I feel like it has so much potential to be
I
better.
think it will be
is the thing.
excellent on the screen.
But look, these days, who knows? It could be another 15 years before we even see
If
it.
Netflix picks it up, then let me just not rant about
Yep.
Netflix over here.
Well, you will see us when they
sponsor us,
drop it.
please, if you do see this, and we will start talking nicely about Netflix adaptations.
Yeah, not at all about your obscene prices.
Is The Witcher a Netflix adaptation? Because that was...
Yes, it
I
is.
think
Okay.
the final
okay, you
seasons
do
were...
get to mark
Witcher
sometimes.
was originally a book, which was adapted into a video game, which was now adapted into a TV show. But, yep, Henry Cavill left, and I
Yeah,
think I'm
asked to leave.
boycotting the next season.
Yeah.
I will still watch it because I love Yelena? Yalisha? I think her
I don't know
name
what her
is
name is.
Alicia.
I mean, the witch?
Yeah, what's her name? Yelena.
It sounds about right. I can't remember.
Whatever her name is, she...
Again, Witcher fans are screaming at us right now.
Sorry.
I'm not a fan. I just love hot characters. Sorry about your bookshelf.
No, I'm more worried it's going to come on down your
No,
heads.
I will like push it back. I'm strong. I can bench press.
My pop vinyls also land on your head. They are all our thoughts on Law.
Yay!
So overall, it's a 2.5 because you gave it a 2, 3, and a 2.5.
Charlie's that read. Rate this 2.5 out of 5, and we would recommend you read it if you like Greek mythology, and we would more recommend it if it hits the big screens. 'cause
Then
I
you should
reckon it'll
watch
be
it.
Much better.
I really like it when you take charge.
Is that a turn on, Sarah? Is that a turn on?
Well,
We
good,
were
more for
sometimes
you.
like, we'll be saying and she goes, no, I'm just going to get it done and jumps in the middle.
I love it though.
Okay, but yeah, so thank you so much for joining us today. We do hope you
Yes.
have enjoyed it. I think we've had a lot of fun
Yes,
talking today.
it's been good.
This has been our very first book podcast. So a little bit of nerves, I feel a little bit.
It was pretty good.
Just because we
I
don't know.
wasn't
we don't
nervous,
really,
but okay.
I know you're not nervous. But no, I had a lot of fun.
It
I'm
is fun.
looking forward to all the things we get to do in the
Yes.
future.
I know. I'm so
but-
excited.
Yeah, but please do leave comments down below on what you thought of Law. Have you read it? Are you going to read it? Did you disagree? Agree with what we
agree?
said?
Did we miss the plot?
Yep. If you think we're morons and we've just missed something entirely, let us know.
There's a good point.
Because all interactions are good interactions because it gets us more.
Yeah, and that's what we're here for. We're here to discuss and have a bit of banter. And
Yes. And
Yeah.
discussions, no being mean to other people just because you disagree.
Yeah, but it's
Please
it's
everyone's
healthy.
opinion
never
is entitled.
bash someone's work.
Yeah,
That's
this
my
was
biggest
still
pet
it was
peeve.
still a good book. There was just
I
things.
will never.
No, we
ever.
could definitely, like, writing a book takes a lot of work.
Yeah, and it's
So,
published. Like
yeah.
that's a testament to
And
itself.
Look, some of the ratings on Goodreads are much higher than what we've rated it. So it's definitely got an audience.
Yeah.
But again, we're all entitled to our opinion.
Mm.
So yeah, so if you like to see more of us in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button because more content will be coming your way. If you'd like to check out our Instagram, there is a girlie that reads Instagram. You can see some behind the scenes, some little short clips of us messing up or just whatever Jazzy captures. So it could be anything.
It'll
who
be
knows?
fun.
We also all have our own individual Instagrams. See the links. Bookstagrams.
So if you want to see fun reels, if you want to see quick notes and
Yep.
mood boards,
Yes.
if you want whole literary theses,
essays.
essays and stuff, that's over here.
Yes.
You can see where we're all reading because we do a lot of the similar reading, but we also do very individual reading as well. So you can check us out there. But we will see you soon with another video. So bye!
We're so cute.
I almost fell off my chair because
Please don't fall off the chair.
the chair didn't roll when I tried to move my butt.